All right. And look, you know, in between, you know, the switching of the two speakers tonight, we're going to go ahead and pass around the donation bucket, you know, as a way, just like Quest was finishing off his talk about how, you know, these capitalist organizations and these big companies have been able to usurp, you know, grassroots movements by co-opting movements, putting in these 501c3s and putting in these non-profit organizations that really temper things and, you know what I'm saying, kind of kill off the fire. You know, like James Baldwin said, the fire next time, you know, they try their best to put that, you know, flame retardant blanket on it and really dampen movements. And that's the objective of the capitalist class, to do so in order for, you know, a true grass rallying uprising doesn't take place. A more tempered movement takes place. And so, you know, all our work and everything that we do, you know, we truly grassroots. You know, we got to pay bills. We have a rent that we got to pay for the office. We got, you know, light bill, air conditioning. You know, we got a monthly newspaper that we push out every month that we, you know, encourage people to subscribe to. Get a $20 subscription, get it mailed to your house. You know, we every month we make it a point to go out to Canal and Elk. You know what I'm saying? We might have to get a new location now that this damn building and collapsed due to the, you know what I'm saying? Again, we talk about capitalism, and due to them cutting corners and all of the sort of egregious errors that were taking place with the construction of the building, we got to have a new place, as well as all the other people that's been inconvenienced. You know, but we do a weekly radio show that you can catch us on WHIV, LP New Orleans 102.3 FM, and on SoundCloud under New Orleans Workers Group. We also on all the social media platforms under New Orleans Workers Group. And, you know, again, we are out there in the streets. You know, we out there selling the paper each and every day. You know, we encourage other folks to do so. We encourage people to write and read the paper, you know, and continuously grow this movement, keep reaching out to more and more people as to the work that's being done and enjoying the movement, you know what I'm saying, to get involved in the struggle, get involved in work. You know, we got an ongoing struggle with the People's Assembly and the Garden Plaza residents, you know, living on toxic soil. And it's a case of where those people that's living there, the people, the residents there, they have become active members and participants within the struggle. It's not, you know, some activists wearing a cape or whatnot. It's people side by side with the residents and with the activists, and they're actively involved in various struggles, you know, beyond just theirs, because they've seen how interconnected all of this is, you know what I'm saying, whether it's environmental racism, whether it's police brutality, whether it's people getting laid off, whether it's healthcare issues, you know, these are all things that are interconnected under this big system, you know what I'm saying, of capitalist white exploitation, you know what I'm saying, at the root of it. And so, with that said, you know what I'm saying, and talking about the root of it, you know, somebody who always gets us to the root, to the core of issues, you know, our next speaker coming up is, you know what I'm saying, another Brooklyn representative, another New York representative coming up, you know, and gonna hold it down over here in New Orleans, coming from the Mighty Nine, and she ain't gonna be dying, you know, because she about that business, she about that life. We got Gangsta Gav coming up to the stage.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
So, that was, you know, just an awesome presentation by Quest. I mean, that laid the foundation for everything. What I'm going to try to do is to bring up some of the current issues that we're faced with in the movement. But I first want to start by saying that one other element of what Quest described so well, and the motive force of history, is really the class struggle. That class struggle can be open and big, a mammoth rebellion. Sometimes it's a strike. Sometimes it goes on every day, sometimes hidden, sometimes open. It's the contest that goes on between the capitalist class and the working class and oppressed every day. That is part of our life, even if we don't label it that. And no matter what the capitalists claim that their system is going to produce, they cannot but continue to exploit and super exploit the masses of the world. They cannot but continue to expand and continue imperialist war, but so they cannot stop the class struggle. And this has broken out on a global basis now that is just incredible. Whether or not it gets into an actual overturn of capitalism into a socialism or not, what we are seeing is the rebirth of the masses, particularly the workers, poor, indigenous people, in everywhere. In Ecuador, in Lebanon, in Chile, in Haiti, in Iraq. I'm not going to mention every country. There are a dozen others. This has happened, no matter what they want to say it is, whether it falls under some general anti-corruption thing and someone has been pushed by the severe effects of the global capitalist restructuring of the boot of the IMF and the other imperialist banks on the heels of the people and the countries of the world who are rebelling and saying no more. And even when their bourgeois governments are forced to make concessions because of these struggles, even then the people are still staying in the street. In Chile, the government backed off on the fare increase on the subways very quickly, but the strike of the workers now is all over. It's practically a national general strike. The miners, the transit workers, the students are still out there. They are not stopping. Haiti, and not stopping despite capitalist state repression, killing protesters, or in Haiti, or in Iraq. They cannot take it anymore, and they are standing up and fighting back. So all these great promises, 2019, when there is clearly enough produced by the collective social labor of the working class globally to feed and have enough of everything, and then some, including joy in our lives, that we produce so much of, we are going backwards, becoming poorer. And this is where more of the, fewer and fewer of the capitalists globally are owning the earth. There is no end to the crimes that they will commit for the sake of their profits. And there's no reason why we should ever support any of their imperialist wars or so on. Now, I know for a lot of young people, it's kind of a feeling like everything bad started with Trump. That is so not true. And we're also kind of glad if we see Trump get taken down a notch of some sort or another. But we have to watch it, because we can't just run to repeat the reasons why the Democratic Party of Pelosi and the likes, or this impeachment brought to you by the CIA, is happening. The danger that's entailed by us adopting their views and their reasons. Now, don't get us wrong. We would like to see millions of people on the street demanding Trump resign. That would still just give us pence. That still wouldn't give us a socialist revolution. But that would start to bring into play the masses exerting their own power and force. But giving up our power by depending on a liberal politicians who are going to fix things for us, I am old enough to tell you, in case you think it's all bad starting with Trump, to tell you that we have lost so much of what we fought and gained over the years. And most of those losses happened during Democratic administrations as well as Republican, because they're all there to serve the capitalist interest. When people say, oh my God, you know, Trump is such a fascist, we know that. So what are we? We're concerned about fighting the right. We're concerned about fighting fascism. But how does this play out with this impeachment thing? In 2014, Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State and Obama was the president. They helped to engineer a coup in the Ukraine. which overthrew the elected government, no great shakes government. What was the crime of the government in the Ukraine? You know, the Ukraine has a border with Russia. Russia, now a capitalist country, the capitalists had promised them, we're not going to build bases on your borders. There's now dozens of NATO bases surrounding Russia. What is the capitalist aim here? They don't care about the character of Putin or anything. Don't you ever believe any stuff like that. Their best friends are the worst. Bolsonaro and the Shah and this one and that one and every right-wing fascist they can think of. Those are their best friends. The king of Saudi Arabia, you know? So all that talk about the character of a government is irrelevant. What they've got their eyes on is conquest of a country. And after the Soviet Union fell, that unfortunate and terrible defeat temporarily for the working class, the capitalists, U.S. capitalists, set about to colonize and have succeeded all across Eastern Europe, driving down the living standards and taking away the democratic rights of people all through Eastern Europe. You have neo-Nazi, right-wing, racist, rotten governments in Poland, Hungary, and so on. So in the Ukraine, their crime was, the U.S. said to the Ukrainian president, don't trade with Russia anymore, just trade with us. And the president said, well, wait a minute, you know, they're right here. We'll trade with you, we'll trade with them, they don't care. You know, no great revolutionary. They took them out. And a movement called the Maidan Movement came in, which is a throwback to the old pro-Nazi forces that existed in the Ukraine. And that government carries symbols and waves flags with swastikas. And they have their paramilitary Nazi stormtroopers running around the country. One of the first things that happened after this coup was they burnt down the trade union building with people inside it. So you are crying that why you want to impeach Trump because he went to this quid pro quo, which you've been doing every day, demanding, forcing other countries to do your bidding in exchange for something or other that they need or want or think they need. And you go to them and you say, we're not going to give you weapons, and you're crying because Trump didn't give them weapons? If we want to arm the Ukrainian government? You know, okay, don't believe me. Most people say, oh, you're the communists. You think that this is what you say about the Ukraine. Well, let me just quote you something from The Nation magazine. The Nation, of course, is, you know, liberal left magazine, which mostly goes on a lot of cruises every year. They write, 5 years ago, Ukraine's Maidan uprising ousted the president to the cheers and support of the West. The Western politicians celebrated the uprising as a triumph of democracy, but denied the reports of Maidan's ultranationalism, smearing those who warned about the dark side of the uprising as Moscow puppets and useful idiots, which is what they still do. The eastern section of the Ukraine is a territory called Donbass. This is where the anti-fascists have been organizing against the fascist movement. They have been bombed. They have been in hunger. They're not some puppet of Russia. They're the Ukrainian anti-fascist movement, and we need to support them. But don't they tell us the dark, oh no, these are the puppets of Russia, see? As if they're... So you've got the people who say they want to get rid of Trump because he's right-wing, fascist-leaning, which we know, who are supporting a fascist government sporting swastikas and paramilitary stormtroopers in the Ukraine. And this is the basis for the impeachment? What about his white supremacy? The guy is a serial rapist. What about all that they're doing to the workers by cutting every single regulation and safety law that exists? Probably has a lot to do with Hard Rock. What about the destruction of the environment and going crazy with more Gulf explorations and so on? None of that is worthy? Isn't it a violation of the Constitution to be a white supremacist when you take an oath of office? No, they're not going to talk about any of those things. They're going to say the Ukraine. And we're supposed to go along and repeat this. And you see this on television where you've got one CIA agent after the other testifying about it. So yeah, We say, get out in the streets, demand that Trump resign, but only by the mass movement, because what will it get us? And not for those reasons. We want the U.S. to get all out of Europe. We want to see a shutdown of all NATO bases. We don't want to see them on the border of any country. So we cannot go along, and this is what the narrative is that you see in the bourgeois press. And this is being pushed by all these liberals and social democrats, democratic socialists in some cases, and so on. It's necessary for us, maybe perhaps unfortunately to say, that what revolutionary socialists who are for the overthrow of the capitalist system, which we are, for overthrowing and smashing the capitalist state and replacing it with a socialist state of the masses controlled by the workers and the oppressed. Well, oh, you're waiting for the revolution. Come on. We have always participated in every aspect of the class struggle right here and now, and we do to this very day. But we do it differently. We don't do it from the point of view of trying to lead people into a deception. We do it as a school of revolution, as a school of fight back, as a school of class consciousness, as a school to try to put power in the hands of the people, not in the hands of nonprofits, not in the hands of politicians who are going to do it for us, but to get the people ready. If Risboni wins the governorship and he tries to take away food stamps and Medicaid, I invite you to join us because we have big plans for what we're going to do about that. We're not going to sit back and allow an assault on the working class to happen, but we're not going to say, oh, don't worry, the liberals will do it. The politicians, the lobbyists, the nonprofits, we're going to go begging Baton Rouge, the plantation I call it, up there in Baton Rouge. It's a difference in how we pursue the struggle. But to think, oh, well, because we get 3 apartments by agreeing to have tax exemptions for landlords rather than a genuine struggle for rent control, or taking over houses that are left empty, or not so empty like on St. Charles, is what we're really for pursuing. Now, that we never fault anybody if it's hard to do these things. But we have to also say that there is completely and absolutely no way that we can move forward with any support for imperialist war and the military budget. You know, one of the things that is said that they're pushing, like saying the Green New Deal, the language is the New Deal. And the idea behind the Social Democrats or DSA, you know, we're not always the same people, is that you can reform the Democratic Party, you can turn it into some kind of a workers' thing. And, you know, it's not going to be represent the capitalist class, the other party of the capitalists, you know. And you can bring it to some kind, you can be as wonderful as Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the New Deal. Well, thank you very much, but FDR didn't give us a damn thing. The people gave us everything. There's real history, and this is such a shame. It's not some politicians who went and voted for a New Deal. There was massive demonstrations by workers, there were occupations of factories, there was everything going on. And the fact of the matter is that when some of these things were done, the National Association of Manufacturers went to Roosevelt and complained, what are you doing? And Roosevelt said to them, you want me to wait until the workers have machine guns at the White House? They were forced. They were afraid of the radicalization that was happening, of the growing strength and size of the Communist Party and others. They were terrified of the independent action of the working class, and so they had to do something because, especially, they wanted the allegiance of the working class bought off in some ways so they could pursue colonial occupation around